Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome into the Shelby County High School Football Show alongside Andrew Simonson. I am Alec Etheridge, and for the 8th consecutive year, the Thompson Warriors are off to the Class 7A state championship, and we've got plenty to get to on this week's show, including a look ahead to that state championship matchup against Opelika, a little bit of drama on X this past week, as well as Thompson takes down Central Phoenix City in a thrilling battle. We're going to touch on that. But, Andrew, we got to start with what we just saw this past Friday night. The Thompson Warriors, they take down Central Phoenix City, an all-time classic with a spot in the state championship on the line, and Thompson makes the play of the season, a 2-point conversion attempt from Central Phoenix City. They've stolen away all momentum, trying to go in for the win there in the final seconds of that game, and Thompson steps up in a big way. You were there at this game. You got to see it front and center. You were right by that game-winning play at the end of the game as well. So walk me through the experience of this game, the momentum swings that you saw, and then obviously that crucial play that was able to seal things for Thompson to punch a ticket to their 8th consecutive state championship game.
Well, it was a big atmosphere going into the game. It really did feel like a big fight feel going into that matchup. And it felt like that early on. Both these teams gave each other their best shots, but then Thompson just kind of locked in. They had a really good defensive performance around the middle of the game that really allowed them to take advantage on the other end of the field. Of note, 3 touchdowns came off of interceptions. And that truly was the difference in this game because they were able to get a good padded out lead. And it looked, frankly, like it was going to be a blowout right up until the last 5 minutes. Thompson going up 35-14, I should say. And then Central began its comeback from there. Good, long, sustained drives were what got that team down the field for its first scoring drive, and then it was just explosive plays from there. A scoop and score off of a little bit of a misread there from Thompson, and then right afterwards, big plays got them down the field really quickly and got them to a point where they felt like they had the momentum to score a 2-point conversion, and frankly, I don't blame them for going for it as well. When you have all that going for you, why risk going for overtime, especially against a team as dangerous as Thompson, even though the offense wasn't able to do a whole lot in the end of the game. We'll kind of talk a little bit more about that later on as we preview the Opelika game. But overall, a gutsy performance from Thompson. Yes, they did let the lead slip by a little bit, but they stood tall when they needed to the most. Junior James coming up with a phenomenal stop right there, reading the pass play perfectly. He was just honed in on that receiver. He knew exactly where that play was going and blew it up right on contact. That's exactly what you're taught to do. Big props to Sean DeFore for drawing that up well, and big props for Junior James for executing after having a solid season this year where he kind of broke out as one of the stars of this defense alongside DeMonte Tab, the obvious star of the game. 3 interceptions out of the 5 for Thompson overall. A phenomenal day for the Warriors defense, and one where they're able to get out with that 1-point win.
Well, that's Tab's, second 3-interception game in the last 3 or so weeks of the season?
It is, yes.
Yeah, I mean, he's had, I think, 7 interceptions in the last 3 or 4 games, if I remember correctly, which is just outstanding as to what he's been able to do and been able to read the offenses that they're going up against. And you mentioned a great play call there to have his guys prepared in that moment from Sean DeFore, the defensive coordinator there for the Thompson Warriors, and Junior James stepping up and doing his job. And that's what it boils down to defensively, is doing your job. You can only focus on what you can do, and if you do your job, that's going to benefit the team as a whole. And that's exactly what we saw from that Thompson defense in the biggest moment, which brings me to the post that I made after the game, quoting your tweet about the win there for the Warriors in that matchup. And it was one that was focused on the 3 losses that they had this year and how it set them up for that exact moment. I think people kind of took that the wrong way as, looking at the past and all the disappointment they've had this year. And that was the opposite of the goal of that post, which was to show this team, I mean, it's just, let's be realistic. They've lost their last 6 losses over the last 2 seasons, all 3 this year, all 3 last year, in tight 1-possession games. And this year, all 3 of those games, they had leads in late in the second half to put them away. They could have been undefeated this season. And when you go into a situation like that, you're in a battle with Central Phoenix City, a spot in the state championship on the line, arguably, if not the 2 best teams. I think they are the 2 best teams in the state, sitting at 1 and 2 right there. You're in a situation right there where you've got to take everything you've learned. You can look back to last year's heartbreak. You can look to this year's heartbreak everything you've learned. That's the point of playing the challenging schedules that Thompson plays, that Central Phoenix City plays, is when you face that adversity, you're ready to go up against it in the most crucial moments. And that's exactly what Thompson was able to do because they played that challenging schedule. Easily, to me, the toughest schedule in the state, maybe one of the toughest schedules in the country this year. But because they had those moments where they had that heartbreak, when you look at the matchup with Grayson, when you look at the matchup with Clay Chalkville, when you look at the matchup with Hoover, all games they could have easily won, all games they led late in the contest, and they couldn't finish it out. They couldn't make that one play late in the game to finish it out. This game they did it. And it's because of those lessons. It's because what they were able to build up and do. And that's a huge deal. And that was the whole point of what we were trying to get across on Twitter on Friday night, was this team from where they were to where they are now, they've grown. They've gotten better. And in the most crucial moment, because they faced that heartache, now they've gotten over that hump. And to me, that's what takes this team from being really good to being state championship level again this year. And that's what we saw on Friday night. That play at the end, all momentum lost. All momentum lost. They had done everything down the stretch to lose that game. And then they step up and they make a defensive play at the biggest moment of the game. And that was huge. That was a huge deal for this team. It not only gets them in the state championship game, obviously now they've got to win a state championship game, but that's the kind of thing they needed to happen to go from good to great and ready to win a state championship. And that's what I saw from that team, and that was the whole directive of what we were trying to get across on X on Friday night as well.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. It even goes back to what I was saying on the football show last week. I did not have confidence in this team in this situation because you looked at over the last couple of seasons, they were 2-6 in one-score games. Those 2 wins coming last year against Lipscomb and Hewitt. And then now this year they add a third against Central in a game that wasn't always a one-score game. It was pacing to be a 20-point blowout. But they do it and they step up in the biggest way possible. And that's why I said last week, I didn't know if the team that I saw play against Hoover in October would have won this game.
Yeah.
And it's because they went through that heartbreak. It's because they got punched in the mouth. They learned their lessons from there and they just bounce back. This is what this team does year after year after year. It's like you said, it's why they play the difficult schedules. It's why they go out and do things they do. State champion teams have state champion mentalities, and state champion mentalities are forged in the fire. And that is exactly what this team did once again. And I just have to give all my props and my hats off to this team for continuing to stay with it, for continuing to improve over the course of the season and getting to a point now where for the 8th straight year, we're talking about this team going to a state championship.
Yeah, and we talked about it all season long. This team had not played its best football. We saw a week ago what they did offensively and defensively in a big performance there in the quarterfinals. They carry that over into the semis against Central Phoenix City, and we saw a similar performance. Things just started to not go their way at the end of that game, and how you respond to adversity, especially as the greatest teams, down the stretch or when things aren't going your way, that's what makes you a championship level team. And we saw that. And so I just wanted to clear some things up there because it did get a little bit of negative traction. It also I got some positive feedback too from people saying you're exactly right. But in that situation, this is a team that is starting to get to that full peak of where they want to be at the exact right time. And we've known it. We've said it the last several years. Thompson is a different team as soon as they flip that switch into the postseason. And that's what we saw. We saw a team that's just different right now. And that's got them in the position to win a state championship. And I know head coach Mark Freeman quoted the tweet, and his whole goal right now is to keep his team motivated because we just talk about it and we go heavily in saying, this team's gone from where they were in those 3 losses. They've used that to become a better football team and possibly the best version of themselves this year, but the season's not over.
Right.
They've got a state championship matchup ahead, and a lot of people are talking about that matchup against Central Phoenix City like it was the state championship game, but Opelika's still ahead, and Andrew, this is an Opelika team that is playing some of its best football of the season right now. They've gone through that gauntlet with the region there. When you look at Central Phoenix City, when you look at Auburn, playing Auburn twice, beating them in the playoffs there to get to this position. So this is an Opelika team that is running rampant right now, and they're going to be ready to use that. They know that people thought last week was the state championship game, and now they've got this matchup ahead to compete for the state title. So we got plenty to dive into with this game specifically. So we're going to do that here in just a second. We're going to break down everything you need to know. Thompson growing into what we think is a state championship level team now. Kind of felt that way all year, and now they've proven it to us. Opelika playing their best football of the season. So let's dive into it. Let's go straight ahead. Thompson, Opelika for the Class 7A state championship. Let's break it all down. Now that we've looked back at what just happened in the semifinals, we look ahead. We look to what this state championship is going to bring us in Birmingham at Protective Stadium. Should be a great environment. Thompson just down the road. They travel well as it is already. If this were in Auburn, in Tuscaloosa, Mobile, wherever it may be, Thompson fans are going to show up. We're in Birmingham again. Should have a great turnout as they look to win their second state championship in a row. They're sixth in the last 7, and they compete in their 8th consecutive state title game. So they're familiar with this situation. This coaching staff, head coach Mark Freeman, knows what to expect in a situation like this. Defensive coordinator Sean DeFore knows how to get the most out of his unit in a matchup like this as well. So they've got a lot of those things going for them, Andrew. But when you break this matchup down, this is an Opelika team. We just talked about it in the opener that is playing its best football of the season right now. Both these teams sitting at 10-3 overall this season. They've both played some really challenging opponents. And you look at what Opelika did last week, getting a little bit of redemption. A loss that they had earlier in the season to Auburn 17-10. They come back in the playoffs and in the semifinals, and they win 31-28. So give us a little bit of background that we may not know about Opelika and what to expect from them in this matchup as they look to take down the reigning state champions in the Thompson Warriors.
Yeah, so there's an Opelika team that's kind of just been right around the cusp of the top 10. It's a team that obviously played in a very difficult region in 7A Region 2, one that I think some people are running with now that was even better than Region 3 this year, considering that Region 3 went 1-3 against Region 2 this year in the first round of the playoffs. I think both regions are quite phenomenal, and those matchups could have gone either way on any given night. But regardless, during the regular season, Opelika, obviously the 3 losses, all of them came in region play. They lost to Auburn. They lost by 22 to Enterprise in what seems like kind of a blip right now. And then losing to Central 42-26. But they flipped the switch when it came to the playoffs. They beat Hewitt-Trussville by 6 in a matchup that I think across the board everybody thought the Huskies were going to win. They go into a region champion in Baker. They beat them by 26. And they beat Auburn by 3. But what I think is lost in that scoreline is the fact that they led for pretty much the entire game. Yeah. They controlled that matchup on the road at the Duck in a sold-out environment, a big-time rivalry game, one that I would argue would rival any Thompson-Hoover atmosphere whatsoever. They went in there on the road and did their best performance in that game, their best performance of the season, I would argue, to get to this point. They're now scoring 27.7 points per game, giving up 22.3 on the defensive side, but it's that momentum that's on their side right now, kind of like Thompson as well. Both of these teams are peaking at the right time, and it should make for great football.
Yeah, it definitely should, and this is a Thompson team. We've seen the offense really start to tick up a little bit. Trent Seaborn's been consistent pretty much all year long, but we're starting to see some other guys step up in big ways. The running game kind of coming around. Obviously, the defense is playing as good as ever. I know that they give up the 34 last week, but they played a lot better than that for 3.5 quarters of that football game. A very good performance from them. They're playing some of their best football of the season, forcing turnovers, which in games like this is an extreme key. But you look at it right now on paper, Thompson scoring 38.3 points per game, Opelika scoring 27.7, Thompson giving up 13.2, Opelika giving up 22.3. So on paper, Thompson scoring 11 more, giving up 9 less points per game. It looks like Thompson is the superior team in this matchup. So when you look at that, the expectation is for them to win. They're the better team, in my opinion. I think in everybody's opinion in the state, Thompson is the favorite to win this game. They're the better team. They've got the better athletes. They're better on paper. So when you're Mark Freeman, when you're this coaching staff, what's your message to your team going into a situation like that? And what's the player's mentality got to be when you look at that, playing with that, you can play with the confidence, but also trying not to get too caught up in the fact that you just won a big, important game against arguably the second best team in the state. And now you've got to go into a matchup where Opelika may not be as superior as what you get from Central Phoenix City. But if you're not locked in, that's a team that can beat you.
We love talking around this here on playoff time of hypotheticals, neutral site matchups, who would go up against each other at any given time, mainly in regards to the SEC, but we're going to brush that to the side for the moment. But everybody looks at this matchup right now like a Thompson win. A hypothetical on paper looking like a Warriors win. Matchups are not won on paper, and that is what the coaching staff is going to stress to this team this week. You have not won that state championship yet. There is not a 2025 on that wall yet. You have to go and put it there. You have to go and show up in Birmingham and do what you've done for the past few times, and that's just go out, play your best brand of football, dominate on every inch, and add another name to that wall as 2025 state champions. I think that's going to be how this team motivates itself and stays focused within the next 10 days. And overall, I just think this team is going to come out with a fresh edge, and they're going to approach it with the intensity that a state championship game requires. I don't expect the Mark Freeman coach team to do any less, but if they do that, if they let it for just a second, then I think Opelika could get into this ball game and make it absolutely dangerous, if not go out and outright win it.
Well, I think one thing, too, that you have to look at is you don't want to necessarily live in the past. Mm-hmm. And, I know that's part of the message is you use the lessons of the past to build for the future and for the present. But you don't want to live in the past. At the same time, one of the things that this team plays for right now is pride. They don't want to be one of the teams that doesn't win a state championship. And when you've got the talent you've got, that should be enough. That playing for the pride of what Thompson represents, which is state championships. That's what their whole goal is from the start of the season, is to win a state championship. It doesn't matter what they do throughout the process, as long as they get better each and every week and they're playing their best football once you get into November. And that's what they're doing right now. And so now, to me, it all boils down to pride. Good week of preparation leading up to the game. It's an awkward little situation where you've got Thanksgiving week, and then you've got just a couple of days leading up to that Wednesday night state championship matchup. You got to have focus. You got to have preparation. But if you have that with the talent they have, it just becomes about the pride of that Warriors across the jersey and for your city. Alabaster's going to show out. It's going to be a great crowd. This program and what Freeman has done over the last 10-plus years in building them from 0-10 to 5-5 in back-to-back seasons to now 8 consecutive state championship appearances, a chance to win 6 of the last 7 state titles, you don't want to be a team that doesn't finish the job. Mm-hmm. And they've got too much talent to where if they believe that way, if they believe that, we've got a chip on our shoulders because we got to finish the job, then that matches anything that Opelika is going to bring out there from having a chip on their shoulder as well. But you have to finish the job, and that's the thing. There should be no looking back to Central Phoenix City. It should be all focus ahead. It should be all hands on deck. You've got a game ahead that's first state championship. This should be the best game you play. It should be the most effort you give. There should not be a second of this game where you're not giving full 100% effort, chasing everything down, being physical up front, blocking for the running backs, blocking for Seaborn, and making the big plays that they need to make offensively and defensively. And I think that's the big thing. If they come out with that mentality that we're going to give 100% effort every single second, then they're going to be in good shape.
Yeah, and I trust this coaching staff to have a good game plan going into this game to neutralize some of what Opelika has done well. I think this offense at its peak, it outpaces anything that Opelika can present as well. I do think that overall they need to rely more on the pass game, though. We saw that regression once again last week. Now, granted, Freeman kind of chuckled when we asked him about it after the game about the run game, because outside of those 3 big touchdowns, they didn't really have much going on the ground game. And he chalked a lot of it up to Central's pass rush, which I'm going to give a lot of credit to that defensive line. All-American and Tristan Lyles, very, very much a talented group up there over in Phoenix City. But it was just repeated mistakes and repeated neutralization that we've seen from this run game, to the point where they called 3 straight run plays on their final offensive drive. They ended up going backwards because they had a false start as well. So it kind of had shades of the Hoover game, but then they obviously come back, get the stop that they weren't able to get in the Hoover game. But overall, I do think that the run game is going to need to get a little bit more involved in order to have the offensive performance that this team really truly wants to have. But I'm honestly of the mentality of just let it fly and let Trent go out and win Mr. Football, because when this team is at its best, it's when the pass game is at its best. And we've seen that throughout the season. I think it needs to be reflected in the script for Wednesday night.
Well, and the funny thing is, when they were struggling early in the season to run the football, Freeman had enough of it.
Mm-hmm.
He basically got to the point where he just said, well, if that's what's going to happen, then I'm going to draw some things up and we're just going to sling the ball around the yard. And it worked out, and they had explosive play after explosive play. But I do think they've improved enough to this point where they can run the football when they need to, and they've got a plethora of backs, and so that helps them. I think that's part of it too, is that they can get those little chunk runs, then they can have an explosive run as well. But you've got so many that getting in that rhythm can be a challenge as well. But to me, when you give this coaching staff extra time to prepare, and we've seen it, I know they lost a couple of years ago in the state championship, but what they did last year, you could just see it from the start. They had the ideal game plan drawn up. And that typically is the case when you give Freeman some time. When you give DeFore some time, they're already good enough. They're already two of the best in the state at their specific crafts. And when you give them a little bit more time to prepare, when you give these guys a little bit more time to learn the game plan, study film, it's scary, man. And we've said it all year. This team is right on the cusp. They haven't quite played their best football. I think they still have another level they could reach. I think we could see that in this championship game, against a really good opponent. And that's what I kind of want to emphasize. They were close to it against Central Phoenix City, and then they just had a couple of blunders there at the end. So they were close to that best performance of the year in that matchup. The week before, a little bit weaker of an opponent, they looked the part. Now I think is where they put it all together. And I think it comes together at the perfect time in the state championship game. I think we see what we saw against Central Phoenix City for 3 quarters, for 4 full quarters in this matchup. So, Andrew, let's get your thoughts, the final thoughts here as you break down this game and what you ultimately think is going to happen. Opelika's best chance to win this football game, and what Thompson needs to do if they want to close it out.
I think Opelika's best chance is a fast start. Obviously, you don't want this Thompson team to get rolling with any sort of momentum. You have to go and establish yourselves as the team to be feared within this matchup, going up against a Thompson team that's going to have a crowd with it, coming over from Alabaster, that's going to have in its mind that it is playing for a state championship and that it is going to win a state championship. You have to go and match that energy on your side, go out, play a flawless first couple of drives on offense and defense, and then just let that lead almost be your best defense as well. Obviously, we've seen Thompson come back, and we've seen them challenge teams when they let their foot off the gas down the stretch. But I think a fast start is going to be what's necessary for Opelika to contend. But overall, if Thompson's defense shows up like it did against Central for the first 3 quarters, there's not going to be a question who's going to win the state championship. That defensive line was doing so many good things against Bobby Coleman. He was chasing him out of the pocket, forcing errant throws. The secondary then showed up, getting 5 interceptions, and then Junior James coming over from the secondary to make that big tackle to end the game. Both of those levels are playing about as well as I've seen from literally anybody that has worn a Thompson jersey in my past 3 years of covering them.
Oh, and they've had some incredible players in the secondary. It may be the best that the secondary has played in the last 10, 12 years. I mean, it's been unbelievable to see what they've done, and that unit alone on the defense could make a difference in a game like that.
I was talking to Griffin Knight over on the sideline after, I think it was the 2nd or 3rd pick from Tab. I think I haven't seen the stats, obviously, from last year. We're waiting for those all-state numbers to come in, but I'd wager DeMonte Tab is having a better year right now than Anquan Fagans was having last year when he won Shelby County Player of the Year and Class 7A Back of the Year last year. And now he's a standout safety over at Auburn.
I thought he was the best defender in the state. I thought he was maybe the best overall player in the state last year defensively. And DeMonte Tab has stepped up in a huge way this year that just almost came out of nowhere. You know his name, but what he's done has just been unbelievable.
Yeah, and he had some good performances last year. Let's not get him wrong. It's not like he came out of absolutely nowhere, but he and a lot of other pieces within this secondary, I look at guys like Junior James, And then this defensive line. I would be terrified to match up against this defensive line. Ami Moala already looks like an NFL player lining up on that defensive line. You look at Cam Pritchett and what he's able to do getting to the ball. Guys like Chance Strone. This team overall is very scary up front, and it's going to be a nightmare for any offensive line to match up against them. So Opelika is going to have to neutralize them up front. But I just don't see this Thompson team having a bad day in that regard. I think they're going to have a very good, consistent performance that's going to allow them to get a bunch of stops, get them to neutralize this Opelika team, and then just let it ride out on offense. And then they're going to see what happens, and I think what happens will be another state championship.
Yeah, and there's your rat poison for you with talking about how good they're playing, especially on that defensive side of the football. But I agree, and it's not necessarily that they're playing good. It's that I think they can use that to build even more confidence and play with an edge. We talk about, last year, 3 losses. They learned from that. They grew. This year, 3 losses. All 6 of those losses by 1 score or less against some of the best teams, not only in this state, but in the country. And they grew from them. They got better. They got into the playoffs. They were the best versions of themselves. We see that again this year. And going into a game like this, you're confident, but you're also still trying to prove something. And when you look at this defense, if they don't come out and play the most physical game that they've played all year, then something's wrong. And I think that's exactly what we're going to get. You talk about Ami Moala and what he's able to do up front, Cam Pritchett as well. But that secondary, how talented they've been, that's not just great players making plays. It's partially that, but it's great schemes. It's being able to read the defense and having a good game plan in place. And they've done that so frequently that it's hard not to expect them to go out there and force a couple of turnovers in this matchup. So I think that that's a big aspect of it. You look at Opelika so far this season, 7 of 13 games decided by 1 touchdown or less, and they've scored 31 or less in all but 3 games this season. And so to me, the offense has struggled to really put teams away. And when you do that against a team like Thompson that has the offense that they have, but in particular has the defense that they have, that's the scary thought. That's where Thompson could come out. If they play with the right mentality, if they're physical up front, if they force the quarterback, they force the run game into quick decisions, that leads to turnovers, and that's where Thompson can hurt you and start to pull away. So I agree. I think that Thompson, they're the better team. It's just a matter of how they come out and play, how they prepare, what kind of attitude they have going into this game. They've been in it so frequently. It's kind of a new experience for Opelika in this situation. And in the 7A classification, what will that mindset be like? Are they going to face the nerves, or are they going to be able to handle the pressure in that moment? I think in this situation, Thompson's ready. They're prepared for the moment. They've played the toughest teams in this state. Obviously, one of the best teams in the country, and Grayson as well. They're ready for this moment. They played the schedule they did to be ready for this moment. And I think that's exactly what we get. I, like Andrew, think that Thompson should be able to win this game, and how focused they are, how determined they are, will determine how comfortably they're able to win it as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's another opportunity for the Thompson Warriors to go out and prove they're the best team in the state of Alabama, one of the best teams in the country. They can lock up another state championship. 8 years in a row of playing for one, looking for their second win in a row to start another streak after it was snapped a few years ago, and looking to win 6 of the last 7 state championships. If they can do that, we've already said it before, they built the dynasty. The dynasty will live on if they can lock up one more state championship. All right, Andrew, well, that brings us to the end of this week's show. It brings us to the end of the line for our weekly shows so far, or for the 2025 high school football season. We've talked extensively about what Thompson did in the semifinals. We've talked extensively about this state championship matchup with Opelika. So walk me through your final thoughts as the season as a whole, what we've got ahead in this state championship as we close things down.
Well, this ended up being one of the more fun seasons in recent memory. We had a lot of teams just go out there, give their all throughout the season, and we saw some good runs as a result of it. I think about Vincent getting back to the second round after losing all they did last season. Being able to follow this team for a playoff run was very special for me, just to be able to see this team go out and challenge the best of Class 2A with all the heart that they had. Seeing Spain Park go toe-to-toe with Saraland, put together its best performance, its final form, in my opinion, of what it was able to do. They proved once and for all that they are one of the top programs within Class 6A, and I think that just continues over the next few years with the talent they have at quarterback coming up through the pipeline, and all the things that they have coming back next year. I'm going to be very challenged to see this team not go out and repeat some of the things that it's done over the last few years, which would be a phenomenal statement in and of itself. And then Briarwood, it's incredible turnaround going from the end of the season, a little bit of a shaky up and down campaign during the regular season, but then going out looking like one of the best teams in the state for 2.5 games. There, obviously, you go and you lose to Moody in the quarterfinals. That game gets away down the stretch, but in my opinion, Moody's going to go out and win a Class 5A state championship. So if you're going to go down, you might as well go down to the best. So, and you just even look across the board. Great turnaround over at Pelham, some noticeable improvements over at Calera and Oak Mountain as well. A great run from Shelby County getting to the second round of the playoffs, and so many other teams that we don't have time to talk about, but it just top to bottom, it really did feel like a really good campaign from everybody. And just blessed to be here, standing here talking about another state championship as well. It's crazy that now it's been 8 straight seasons that we've had Thompson in the state championship. We've had a few other teams join them over the last few years, but it's something that as a reporter you don't want to take for granted, and something as a team in Thompson as well you don't want to take for granted as well, because it's so hard to get to one of these year after year after year. I think we're continually blessed that Shelby County gives us the level of football that we can stand here and talk about this level of teams going into a state championship. So I'm just excited for all this to get going. One last ride with Thompson going up against Opelika to cap off another great season. Just hoping to see it go out on a high note as well, win or lose.
And that kind of takes me back a little bit to some of the drama on Twitter and all that. I mean, we've been here for 10, 11 years looking at this situation, and Thompson being 0-10 at one point to where they are now and the continued success that they've had. We've been through thick and thin with them. We love covering the state championship. We're so pumped to be there again and cover this team and be a part of this journey. And to see what they did last week, once things started to go the wrong direction, at that point, it's very easy to start to feel, you can feel it covering, I'm sure, Andrew, that here we go again. It's about to happen again. They're going to experience heartbreak, and they're not going to make it to the state championship. And then all of a sudden they make that big play. And to see them go from the heartbreaking losses they've faced the last 2 years, and while they haven't meant anything in the grand scheme of things for their playoff runs, it has meant something from the standpoint of it's made them the best team they can be. And that's where we are with this Thompson team. They're the best team they can be right now going into the state championship with maybe just one more little step to take. And I think they're prepared to close out one more title. But it's so much fun. We love planning the coverage around this. We're going to have so much more of it here as we look ahead to Wednesday. Obviously, our usual coverage with the pregame show, and we hope to have even more postgame than we usually do this year with our team being a little bit bigger. We'll obviously have the video recap after. We'll have the story. We'll have the photos. Hope to have even more stuff right there from in Birmingham at Protective Stadium. And we'll see how everything unfolds at the end of the night to see how far things extend with our championship coverage. But it's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you turn out there. The City of Alabaster, Thompson High School representatives. It's going to be a lot of fun for the Warriors competing for another state championship right here in Birmingham. A great chance to win their second in a row and 6 of the last 7 Class 7A state titles. We'll see if at the end of the night the Thompson Warriors are hoisting one more blue mat.